Most coaches could throw out half their offense and get better overnight. Today, we're going to show you how.
When I get to consult with coaches, I rarely start off by adding things to their offense. I always start by taking things away because everything that we want to master does take time. And we need to free up more time to get good at what happens most. We do that by getting rid of the things that just don't happen very often or don't get us much of what we want. Once you actually get rid of the things that are often holding you back, then we can invest more time in the things that really matter. So today, Mike, Mark, and we're going to help you do both. We're going to help you evaluate what might not matter so much so you can get rid of it and help you identify the things that should matter more so you can invest more time in it. And I think the result will be you have your best offensive season yet. Welcome to The Hours. I'm Tyler Coston. This is Mark Cascio, and together we run Savi Coaching. We're on a mission to revolutionize the way the game is taught and played. Each week, we'll break down the stuff that actually moves the needle. Practice design, shot selection, defensive principles, player development, you name it, and we'll talk about it.
And before we get going, check right now and see if you're subscribed. If you're not, please hit the button. It's free. It only takes a second, and it helps us continue to share free content and improve the podcast every week. We appreciate you.
Let's get into the episode. Mark, please just teach us how.
Well, as a coach, you should always be evaluating, I think, of how you can do things better. That's what always drove me as a coach is how can we improve this? How can we improve that? So today we're going to talk about improving offense. And if you're not evaluating what you do, if you're not evaluating your beliefs, I think you're doing it wrong because your personnel changes, the game changes. And if you're not looking back at the version of yourself as a coach from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and there's not like a little or like remorse, then I think you're missing an opportunity to get better.
I got a question for you, Mark. How clear is your memory? So as you look back at yourself as a coach 5 years ago, like how accurate do you actually think your recollection is?
Actually, they're probably not very accurate. There's been a lot of science that says your memory is actually your memory of the memory instead of the memory of the actual event. So if just like let's basketball context, right? Think about a game where you just got destroyed. You're probably going to remember all the bad things or an interaction that went good, bad. You're going to have your version of that. That's actually what your memory is. So long way to say probably not very accurate. And what I usually look back and if I'm evaluating, like who I was as a coach 5 years ago, I probably lean on a lot of the mistakes that I made or the flaws that I had in my coaching.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, question for you. And then, sorry, I'm hijacking this, Mark. What if you could only pick one for yourself, Mike? You can either have a really clear vision of who you were 5 years ago, or you can have a really clear vision of who you will be 5 years from now. Which would you choose to have more clarity on?
I mean, I had a traumatic injury in the last 5 years here, so I don't know.
You don't know if you want to remember that?
I don't know if I'd want to know what was going to happen. Gosh, that's a good question. That's really tough. But yeah, I would say, what was the one where I get to go back 5 years and look
yeah, you
ahead?
have really clear vision of exactly who you were 5 years ago.
Yeah, I would choose that one.
You choose that one. How about you, Mark?
I feel like this is like the question where if you could go back in time, what place would you go back to? So I could go back in time 5 years and know exactly what was going to happen in the future.
No. This is just like you're in the moment, but you have an absolute clear vision without any subjective rewritten history of exactly who you were 5 years ago. Because we think we know who we were 5 years ago, but you actually, or you have a really clear vision. You're still in the moment of exactly who you will become 5 years from now. Which one would you prefer to have?
Okay, I got it.
The clear vision of.
I feel like the one in the future would be really, really cool, but also scary. Because if it's not what you want to be, if it's not what you're aspiring to be, if it's like way worse off than who you were today, I'd be pretty depressing to know that right now.
Right?
Well, yeah, but it's just a snapshot. It's not written in stone. I mean, obviously, there are infinite realities, and every choice you make creates a new branch of reality. So just by seeing a snapshot, it will change everything immediately. That's why
Does time dilation play a factor in this, Tyler?
I mean, CERN is shut down. That's the only reason that we're having this conversation. Back to the podcast.
We've got 5 rules for offense. I'm going to give you all 5 rules. And then Tyler, Mike, let's order these in order of importance or maybe install, however you want to view it. So the 5 rules, same as last episode. If you haven't listened to last episode 124, we did 5 rules for defense. where Mike challenged some of Tyler's lock left rules. If you're a regular listener and you listen to that, thank you. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for us. Okay, 5 rules: our shots, our spots, our pace, our pattern, and our people. So our shots is our shot selection. Our spots is our spacing. Our pace is our tempo. Our pattern is what I'm going to call basically what makes up our possessions, like how we build our conceptual offense. And then our people is going to be obviously our personnel. Anybody want to go first as far as how they would order these in importance or install for their teams?
I feel like Mike should go first.
Mike, yeah, you go first. You haven't
How
been
would I
poisoned
order
yet.
the 5 rules? I mean, our shots, just clearly defining what those are, it's kind of an interesting one because it's sort of like implied in today's basketball. I feel. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little removed from the youth side of things exactly, but I just feel like it's almost like in the background. It doesn't need to be said. So I think its importance is probably lower on the list just because it's like we want to score layups, we want to shoot, catch and shoot threes. Done. I would say our pace and our pattern, those would be 2 and 3. I think our people is number 1. I think
Our people is
personnel.
number 1.
I think our people is number 1.
He adjusted.
I think, yeah. So I think I would put our people number 1, our pace, our pattern. I can put on tier 2 there, and then our spots would be number 4, and then we'll put our shots last, just because I feel like that one's sort of a gimme.
Okay, I feel like our shots went from 1 to 4. As you
No,
were,
our shots is last because I think it's like
Okay.
so implied. Like from my perspective, it's like we're gonna score at the cup or we're gonna shoot wide open threes. Like that's offense today. And anything outside of that, I think it comes down to like what type of personnel are we have, how fast are we playing, how are we gonna get guys to where they need to be, and then how are we gonna play out of that? Like what actions are we running? And then it will be like our shots are just sort of we know what they are essentially.
Yeah.
That's why I put them last.
All right, so Mike's got our people, our pace, our spots, our pattern, our shots. Tyler.
Okay, the guiding principle for this order is where we hold the standard. So what we hold the standard on first and hit a baseline before we change our focus and hold a standard elsewhere. So we will hold a standard first on our pace. Speed is our identity, and I decide these things on like what how I'm willing to lose. Like I'm willing to lose if we play fast and take bad shots, but I'm not willing to lose if we play slow and take good shots. Like, yeah, I would much rather lose just playing fast and jacking up terrible shots. So that's why I prioritize it that way. Interrupt me at any point if you want to clarify.
Oh, I just want to go back in time. I want you to have that, like we talked about time travel at the beginning of this thing. I want you to go back in time and talk to my high school coach. Okay. I remember a possession that we
are
had.
talking to our high school coaches right now.
Hang on.
Right.
Hibbing, Minnesota. Okay. Christmas tournament. Hibbing, Minnesota is the home of Kevin McHale. All right. We had a possession. This was before shot clock, before any of that. We held the ball for like 3 minutes, passed it around, end up with like a random midi, and kid made it. Coach is like, that's the best possession that we've had all day. We lost by like 30. Forget that. We had the one good possession where we held the ball for 3 minutes, and then we hit a mid-range jump shot. So
yeah. No, you are not alone. And I think that's like a warning to all coaches, like beware of falling in love with your own scent. Okay, what I mean by that is like everyone has like their own preference or their own scent. Like some coaches just love a possession where they get a lot of good motion, and they'll get a lot of good motion, get a crappy shot, and be like, "I love it," and you just love it because it's your thing. You just love your own. No, like what are we actually trying to do here? We're trying to score more points at a higher efficiency, and we're trying to win the game. And there's many ways to win. Like there's many ways to shoot. Okay, we get it. Number 2, I'm gonna go space as number 2. Space is number 2. If we have bad players that are taking bad shots, but they're playing fast and in space, we're going to score a lot of points. And I think space is actually easier to teach than shot selection. I'm just going to throw it out there. Call me crazy. I know Mark hates it, but you'll get a chance to rebut in a moment. Or you can rebut now. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just spacing is tough to teach, but go ahead.
I would say spacing is not tough to teach. It's tough to execute.
Yeah. Simple, but not easy.
Yeah, agreed. Whereas like, okay, I think it's much easier to execute shot selection than spacing. So, pattern. I would try to get to our patterns. Biggest frustration to me in basketball and pickleball for that matter is when bad players are shooting more shots than good players or attempting to create something before your best players touch the ball. I remember playing with an NBA guy, and we're playing in a 3-on-3 tournament, and I was on his team, and he called a timeout halfway through the 3-on-3 tournament. He's like, "No one gets to shoot until I touch the ball." And in the moment, I was like, "That's pretty selfish," but upon reflection, it's like, absolutely. Like, why would anyone like, every shot he takes is better than every shot we take. Everything he creates is better than anything we could create. So, like, let's not even try to do anything until we get to our pattern. And at its simplest form, our pattern is our best player in their best spot on the floor. Like, that's it. And so I think, like, making sure at least that everyone on your team knows the pattern, what we're trying to get to, what I've called in the past the primary point of attack is essential. I'm talking too much, but I'm having a great time. Thanks for putting up with me. Then I'd go with our shots. I'll say no more on it. I think that once you have those other things, shot selection will juice it all up immediately. Lastly, our people. And here's why I'm putting it last. I think it takes time to get to know your people, actually. And so if I know every time a coach goes into a season, they're like, oh, here's my starting point guard, and here's my starting big, and oh, we absolutely have to get this guy crashing the boards or this girl, posting up or whatever it is. Well, I think that having those predisposed ideas and pigeonholing players, especially year to year, is really dangerous. I think you should go in with a blank slate every year and explore as if in a laboratory, like, okay, who are our people? And who's actually best in these roles? And how can we get people in their areas of strength and their superpowers? I think really having an exploratory mindset on that and not making snap judgments is valuable. Hey, really quick, if you're getting value out of the hours, honestly, you're going to love our school community. In Savvy Basketball, we've got all of our courses in the classroom. We are giving you film feedback on your team. There's community posts with coaches interacting and helping each other. And we take you through challenges to deep dive into different areas of coaching. So come check us out. The link is in the description below. We've got a 7-day free trial. So just come join for free.
I'm curious about this because as regarding the people, because in my experience in professional basketball, it's sort of like equal opportunity, like for preseason. It's sort of like, okay, we know who kind of is supposed to do what, but like a lot of the times, like coaches will just kind of like lay the blanket, lay out the set the dinner table and see who's going to go out there and eat. And then
Mhm.
as the season goes on, it's just like it becomes way, way, way more defined.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I'm gonna go reverse order here, just so we can kind of segue into our actual keep, combine, kill, which is we're gonna do with Mike here, where we have 5 rules. We've kind of already started this process, but we'll formally dive into it here in just a second. So I'm gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and these are not really in order of importance. I went more in order of install or introduction. So number 5 for me would be our shots. I think one of the most important things on offense is shot selection. So it's not that it's the 5th most important. It's just usually how the possession ends. So we would have
Mm.
our shots last. Our pace would be 4th because pace is the first way that we're going to try to create an advantage. We want to play with pace, whether make, miss, whether the other team's more talented, less talented, doesn't matter. Our tempo is playing fast. And then spots is our spacing. So this kind of goes with our principles of play of spacing advantage shot selection. So spots would be our spacing. If I was introducing offense, I would start with spacing. So before spacing advantage shot, we're going to go to our people, which would be number 2. I'm not going to dive into that because we're going to get into that shortly, but this would be like obviously your personnel and your skill development, and then our patterns. Okay, so the way I'm defining our patterns, I have this as number 1. Not that patterns are going to show up first, but I wanted to just get like if our pattern is our possessions will be more pattern based than traditional offenses might be more rigid, right? Where every possession looks the same because we're running flex, or every possession looks the same because we're calling a play, or even if it's a continuity. And Mike, I would love to hear your take on continuity offenses because I'm sure you've played in a lot of those. But our pattern is our possessions, and we would prioritize our rule would be principles over plays. Before I get into patterns, I just want to talk about what conceptual offense is, because we all probably have a different definition of like what a motion offense or a conceptual offense is. And this conversation came up with our members actually on our live training this week. If you don't know, every week we hop on live with our members. This month we're talking about RDS, which is the conceptual offense that we use. And I'm sharing a different flavor of RDS that's generating a lot of buzz, and rightfully so. It's beautiful basketball, but it's more of a motion feel to it. So if that resonates with you, you might want to dive into that. But basically, conceptual offense is just solving problems that defense poses. Hey everyone, this is Mark. We had a technical difficulty while recording this episode, and I didn't want the content to be lost. So I'm just going to hop in here and give you a rundown of everything that you missed, and then the rest of the episode will pick back up in just a few minutes. And as we go through our shots, our spots, our people, our pace, our pattern, we're going to do a keep, combine, kill. And if you've listened so far, Mike and Tyler have ranked their order of install or importance, however they looked at it, as far as the 5 rules that we're sharing on offense today. I'm going to start with our pattern. So I did a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I have pattern first, not necessarily that I would start installing here, but I think it gives you the best overview of what our possessions look like, because I'm defining our pattern as our possessions. Because when you run conceptual offense, every possession might look different. It might start with a different action. You might not even run certain actions in a possession, and you might run that same action 5 times on the next possession. We don't know. We just know it's going to be some type of pattern, some type of coordinated, free flowing movement that we practice, that our players are comfortable running, but we're not calling those things. We certainly could, but they're going to show up organically, which is what I want in offense. I want our players to feel unleashed. I want them to have the freedom to run the actions that they want. Obviously, it's something that we practice, but that's going to create advantages. And based on what problems defense gives us, then we have the solutions through our reads. So we might have different weapons or different counters, different reads that we would use against different types of offenses. So we prioritize principles over plays. When you run plays or continuity, you're telling all 5 players what you want them to do: run here, screen there, cut here. And oftentimes that just leads to a shot. And we don't really want to get a shot, because sometimes it's like, oh, well, we got this shot. Well, we want to get great shots. And we get those through our patterns. And kind of like zooming out, our pattern would be our principles of play, which is spacing, advantage, shot. So we would say our pattern is spacing before advantage, advantage before shot. So every possession should have that type of flow. We space the floor. That gives us a great chance to create an advantage. If we're not spaced, we're playing at a disadvantage, and offense is going to be hard. If offense is hard, you're doing it wrong. So we want to create space, stretch the defense horizontally, vertically. Then we can create an advantage. That might be through our pace, which we're going to get to, but it also might be through an action instead of a play. So an action would get maybe 2 or 3 offensive players involved in the action, which would get defense into coverage, which gets us into advantage game, which we call dominoes. Once we're in advantage game, then we have a good chance of getting a shot that we hunt, which is 9s and 7s. We're going to get there later when we talk about our shots. So some other patterns that could exist within a possession are probably some that you're familiar with like drive, kick, swing. We call that a 2 out, meaning we get a paint touch, we kick. We don't want to drive the drive off that, because we want to create more space in the paint and expand that advantage to get defense in the blender. So we might go drive, kick, swing again, which we call 2 out, just meaning we go 2 passes out of the paint. A down, up, over could be another one, or ball screen, rise behind, throw it back, throw it in. That's a pattern. So there's going to be all of these patterns that exist in your offense or in your possessions, which is why I started here. It's just kind of the most zoomed out approach. And again, our approach is, instead of teaching plays, we teach actions and triggers coupled together equals a series. Our most common one, or I guess our most popular one, would be Rose series, which is fingers, fan, follow. But you could certainly run another series inside of RDS. If you want to learn more about Rose series, check out episodes 74 and 75, or 75, 76. Tyler and I did a part 1 and part 2 on what Rose series is. All right, so next we have our people. And I put this one second because offense is an application of skill. Like anything that you do on offense is a skill, whether that is first and foremost like playing in space. That's a skill. Learning like how to give the ball space, how to hold the corner, how to relocate and play off the ball. When do we burn cut? to create an advantage or to get a 9 or a 7. That's a skill. So we would start there, teaching players how to play in space. I think foundational is teaching players how to play off the catch, how to play off 2 feet, and then how to play in actions, like playing in an action, playing in a ball screen, coming off a fingers cut, attacking space out of fan, is all skills. And too often times as coaches, we worry about like our pattern, like our possessions, what actions are we running without focused on player development. And your player development should be linked and directly correlated to your offense. Because, like I said, offense is just an application of skill. Let's say we go fingers cut, we give you a triple gap. Well, you got to be skilled enough. You got to be comfortable with the ball to move it, to drive it into that gap, to finish, to pass, to stop and pivot out of that play, maybe pivot out of pressure, find the next play. So all of those things are going to make our offense better if we just focus on skill development. So I have this one second in here. Again, this is, can we find solutions that problems that defense presents us? This is on a team scale, but also on an individual scale. We're going to get back to the regular podcast. I hope this helped get you up to speed. And thanks for listening. Mike, we'll start with you. As offense as an application of skill would be keep, combine, or kill.
I would keep it. I think offense, yeah, the offense, it really, like, looking at from sort of an individual lens and not the team lens. It's you kind of have to find where you're going to be successful, so to speak, and like how many opportunities you have will be directly correlated to how skilled you are. So those things, like, they walk hand in hand. So your connection between those two makes perfect sense, especially thinking about, like, I teach all the time, like, your job as a player is to be as open as possible, as often as possible. And as long as you do that, like, you might not catch the ball every single time you're open, but you're giving yourself the best opportunity to get more catches, get more touches, and then as a result, make more plays. And as a result, with those touches, now the question is like, okay, what are you going to do with it? And that is directly correlated to your individual talent and everything that you work on in the summer and build up and develop over throughout the season.
Yeah,
So those things, yeah, keep those.
Yeah, the 2 things you said that resonated with me is, like, you gotta figure out where you fit in the offense and, like, the individual skill. We used to say, "Be selfish in pursuit of your own skill development," but you have to be really unselfish with how that fits in with your teammates when other 4 players are on the floor. And then second thing that resonated with me is you said opportunity. Your opportunities are determined by how skilled you are, which another part of, like, our people is player roles. I find that coaches usually avoid the role conversation. It's like a just like the plague. It's like, we know we have to define roles. I don't know how to do that. I don't want to do that. We're going to avoid it and just hope that it all works itself out. We believe that clearly defined roles allows players to play more free because they know what to focus on, what they're hunting, and we can't all hunt the same things. So if we eliminate some things off the menu, then it's easier for them to be better inside of their role. It's like when you go to a restaurant with like a 5-page menu or a restaurant with like a front and back, whole lot easier to order on the front and back.
It's interesting
I'll
because if you put a player in a box too, like, you don't want to, you want to be careful with that box, because I'll give you an example. One of my old teammates, Justin Jaworski, shout out Juice, one of the best shooters in the world. If you watch how the ball comes out of his hands, incredible. The reason why he's so good is, one, he's trained super hard, like all that. That's by the wayside. But like when he steps on the floor, he has one mission: get him up. I'm going to use every single screen that's set for me. I'm going to push my guy. I'm going to come off with speed. I'm going to look for these things constantly. And like, some games he'll go 0 for 10. But you know what? The next game, he might go 7 for 8. And he had a couple 30 balls in the ACB this year, one of the best competitions in the world. This is him. You see the video right here. He dropped 30 against Valencia, who was second place in the EuroLeague. So it's interesting because it's like coaches are like, okay, Justin, like, you're going to go and like, we want you to do this and do that and do that. And he's sort of like, okay, cool. Like, I'll follow that. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to let that stop me from like my mission of like, I'm out here to put the ball up and get buckets. And it helps the entire team because the other team is like so tuned up on him all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm showing everyone right now on the screen a breakdown on Justin that Mike did in our training community for players, which we'll put it in the link in the description. If you got a serious player that wants to be mentored by a pro player that wants to be in community with other high high aspiring basketball players and be walked through their basketball journey, send them this link, have them come check it out 7 days for free. And I'll even use this one clip to answer my combine here. I would combine people and patterns. I think one of the most common errors that coaches make in skill development is they divorce the skill from the read. The read is the pattern. It's like, this is a pattern. Justin, I imagine, gets this shot out of this pattern a lot, right? It's where his player's tagging the roll. So he has to go and tag the rim. So Justin reads, okay, how do I actually get more shots off? How do I get as open as I can, to borrow Mike's language? How do I get as open as I can, as often as I can? This is a pattern. So I would, instead of just shooting stationary shots, I would develop this person, Justin, shooting shots out of this pattern. If this is a pattern where he's going to get shots often, because it's one thing that we're actually going through right now in our player community is this concept of gets. Like, it's one thing to be able to make shots, it's another thing to be able to get yourself more shots, and that's directly related to what you said so perfectly, Mike, of get as open as you can as often as possible.
I think a lot of players too, they like, especially if they're frustrated because they don't get enough shots or like stuff's going on. And you go back and you watch the game and it's like your guy went under the screen. Like, that's a shot. Like, you just missed that opportunity. And since the game keeps going, that's why it helps to have somebody like check your games out who actually
Yeah.
played at a high level and who sees it. So then you can be like, oh, I did miss that opportunity. Okay. And then it won't happen again.
Yeah. You actually don't need more plays run for you. You need to recognize your advantages better. Any of the three of us can go through a player's film of a game and identify 8 to 10 more opportunities to shoot or attack than they took. And that's the lowest hanging fruit. And as you seize opportunities, more will be given to you. And that's what we're doing in our training community, is training players through film to recognize their opportunities more. So if you've got a player that is coming to you, coach, saying, I need more shots, just direct them to our player community, and we'll teach them how to do it within the flow of your offense. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, third rule, our spots. So our spots refers to our spacing. We've all heard Chuck Daly quote, offense is spacing, spacing is offense. But when we don't score enough points, or ball just does not go in, offense feels hard, we usually answer that question with adding more actions, adding more plays, adding more quick hits, instead of prioritizing spacing. So we want to run offense from our spots, which would be play high and wide. So we play really high in the above the free throw line, which would be 4-point line. And then when we're below the free throw line, we want to play down close to the baseline. That would be our corners, or the lock spots, or the dunker spot, or porch. And I came across a quote lately, and it instantly made me think about teaching offense, and specifically in relation to spacing. The quote was, slow down, you'll get there faster. And if coaches would just slow down when installing offense and prioritize spacing over running these actions or running these plays, later on, not only would you solve a bunch of problems that come up later, is like, oh, we crowd, or we can't find advantages. A lot of times you can't find advantages because you're not spaced. Like, there's nowhere to go with the ball. If you would prioritize spacing, those problems would not even come up as frequently, if at all. But also, when you do add actions, when you do add plays, your player's going to be so much better in those actions. You're going to be able to install them faster because they understand the foundation, which is spacing. So spacing is a principle of play. We would create space, we attack space, and we pass into space. If coaches taught that more, their offense would be better instantly.
Yeah, keep that. Keep that. Because so story time. So my third year as a pro, I came into the team, and like, you got maybe like 10 days of preseason, and then you play like your first preseason game. And we went into that game with one play. We called it blue, and it was literally just 4 corners. And coach was just like, yeah, we just want to run and then spread out, and we got, everybody plays the same except for the big man who sets screens. It was so mind-boggling to me. And then after that game, he introduced a second play, which we called red. And then so we like through the whole preseason with two plays, blue and red. And it was one of the most fun seasons I've had, also one of the most successful seasons that I've had.
Mm.
What percent of pro teams run continuity offense versus like more of a conceptual free flowing?
Usually versus, I would say the split. If the split is like 50-50, so you have like a transition and then you have your half court set. And then I would say like now it's trending more towards like 60% transition and like 40% half court, but like there's still some teams who like maybe they got some older guys, they got to play a little bit slower, so they lean a little bit more towards half court. But when I first came overseas, it was a half court game. It was
True.
everything was a set, everything was actions. I've never had to defend so many screens in my life, and like as the game went on, it got faster, but it also got easier, frankly.
Mm.
Tyler, anything on our spots spacing?
I mean, just to highlight that blue, as Mike defined it, was our spots. And
Four
so, I
corners.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So I think understanding that it's all framing, you can frame your offense as a play or as a shape. Shape equals spots equals spacing. And we would encourage you all to begin framing your offense as a shape, and then what you do out of that shape as your actions.
Shape or color?
I mean, yes.
Yes. All right. Let's go to the fourth one. This would be our pace. Our pace would refer to our tempo, and our style would be an up tempo. Like every coach that's ever coached says we're going to play up tempo. We actually do. Our rule is that we race first and we race always. So the idea of conceptual offense is that we want to get to advantage. And once we get to advantage, we want to turn that advantage into a big advantage shot, which we're going to talk about last here in our shots. But the goal would be to get to advantage as quickly as possible. The easiest way to score would be to race the arcs, win the race in transition, arrive with a 4-on-2, and get something that you really like. It's much easier to score when you have a numbers advantage or when you're set up and organized and the defense isn't. So we believe get there as fast as possible rather than walking it up and allowing defense to get neutral. I think everybody would agree with that, where maybe, Mike, you might disagree with this. Maybe our listeners would disagree with this, but we would do that no matter who we play, when we play, where we play. Traditional coaching might be, well, they're better than us. They're more talented than us. They have a better shot of winning. So we're going to slow the game down and limit possessions and try to grind this thing out, because if we give them too many opportunities to score, we're going to lose. We look at it as, instead of like, hey, how are we like not going to lose? It's more of how are we going to win? We're going to create more advantage situations. And if we can't beat these guys 4-on-2 or 5-on-3 or 2-on-1, we surely can't beat them 5-on-5 in the half court.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on this one.
Yeah,
Okay, I agree with the with what you said at the end there, though. Don't change your style for anybody. No, you play your game. You teach your guys to play your game. When they put on your jersey, they play a certain way, and that's the expectation. That's the standard, and that's what you should go for. And if you start changing, if you start having doubts, if you start doing this as a coach, that transmits to your players so easily, so easily. And if you're like, no, like we put on this jersey, we play this way, and that's what we do. That's a powerful message for a room full of players. And where I'm going to push back on this one is I think it's great for what I would argue the first 33 minutes of the game. And I think the last 7 minutes, if we play a 40-minute game, I think it's a different basketball game. I think more games are won between 7 minutes and 2.5, 3 minutes than any other stretch of time on the floor. I think those possessions that happen then, if you have an opportunity, like you should absolutely take advantage of it. Depending on the time of the score, depending on this, it's, hey, let's get the ball to our creators, let's eat some clock, and let's make sure we get a good look at the end of it.
Yeah, context matters, right? I wouldn't disagree with that. I would say there definitely is a time and place to protect the lead or slow the game down when you're basically playing against the clock and not necessarily your opponent at that point, is what I would say.
Yep.
You know,
I would say something a little different. I would say still push in transition, but then slow the game down if you don't generate one of those really high percentage things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get a
I mean,
paint touch and then have
yeah.
a look when it gets out to your guy, and
Exactly.
just don't be worried about not doing anything for
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
18 seconds to 7 seconds on the shot clock.
Be more discerning on your shots. Be more discerning about who touches the ball. Be more discerning about the size of the advantage you're attacking. Eliminate more high risk, high reward things if you're the team that's ahead. A very interesting breakdown, and Mike, you might even want to consider this at some point around this topic, would be the Spurs losing to the Knicks and blowing their, I don't know what it was, 20 plus
28-point lead.
28,
Yeah.
right? That would be interesting because real time was hard to evaluate, but I actually feel like they didn't, like they were hitting threes. They were super hot in the first half. They were taking early small advantage threes and they were going in. And that's what created the lead. And then they continued to take those, what I'm going to call fives, throughout the rest of the game, didn't adjust when those shots stopped falling, didn't adjust with their lead, and gave up the game. And I think New York made some interesting adjustments as well as far as getting to their best mismatches. So that would be a really interesting one because I feel like the Spurs did not adjust and then gave up that game.
Yeah, so this is something I've actually thought a lot about because that's the like big example, right?
Mhm.
That I think it was game 4,
Game
was
four,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was game 4. But listen, it happened to Real Madrid in the playoffs against Tenerife. It happened in the Leboro finals with Coruña and Estudiantes. It happened in Germany between Alba Berlin and Munich in the final. I think Alba was down 20 at halftime. Like
Mhm.
there's something in the water. There's something going on. I don't know what it is. I just don't know if it's the style of basketball that we're playing. I don't know if it's like mentally as
Yeah.
players, like they're easily like, oh, like we got this one. Let's, they start thinking like they just get distracted. They lose focus for
Yeah.
whatever reason. I don't know what's going on, but that like the
It
Knicks
seems
is
like
the
there's more
big
big comebacks than I can recall in high pressure situations.
ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And it's at every level down the floor. Like I can even there's some local teams here too that same thing happened. Big leads
Mm.
blown. Yeah, and yeah, so it's I don't know why that is, but it is a trend. And I don't know what it
Mhm.
has to do with the offense. I think it's more focus and concentration
I
and
agree.
like
Yeah.
being in the moment than anything.
Mhm.
Because you never everyone has an opinion who watches those high pressure games, but until you've been on the floor and like had to deal with that, like you don't know what it is. Even in our final 4 loss, we were up 13 with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. We ended up losing that one too. So it's like it's a different thing. It's a different beast on that stage.
I think that might need to be a future episode. How to win when you're ahead. I don't think that one's
Yeah.
been done very much before. When you have a huge lead, how to hold on and win.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds because
No.
you wanna stay aggressive, but you gotta stay disciplined too. Are you milking clock? Are you taking this shot? Who takes this shot? Which goes to our last rule of
I like what you
offense,
did
which is
there. I like what you did.
our shots. Little segue there. So, Tyler, you mentioned fives, which are like so. So we'll get into our shot scale here. If you want to improve your offense, you have to improve your shot selection. And all great offenses have very clear shot scales or a way that they grade shots. So our rule is that we hunt nines first and sevens second. So nines and sevens are on our savvy shot scale. A nine would be what we call a big advantage layup or two, and a seven would be we call a big advantage three. We hunt nines first, 7 seconds. Oftentimes, when you hunt nines and try to put pressure on the rim, you create help and gravity, and that leads to kickouts for sevens. So teams without a clear shot scale might define a good possession by getting a shot. And I found that oftentimes that's fool's gold because sometimes when you're just trying to get a shot, that leads to your fives, where it's like, we're running off one foot, we're getting pushed outside the paint, and a coach will call that a layup. It's like, oh, we got layups, we just
Mhm.
didn't make them. But the goal is not to get a shot. The goal is to get shots that you love, or we would call big advantage shots. So we prioritize shots at the rim, shot catch and shoot shots from the perimeter, and then obviously free throws or high point per shot rating. Last episode, if you didn't listen to that one, we talked about defense, but we talked about the mid range a little bit. Not that the mid range needs to be dead, it's just not what we're hunting first, and only few players are truly deadly from there. So, offensive rule, we hunt nines first, sevens second.
Can I share one thing I've been playing around with on the shot scale?
Please,
I've kind of
please.
been playing around with redefining what an 8 is because we don't talk about it in our first layer of teaching shot selection. It's 975. Really, really clear, and it takes care of the majority of your shot attempts. So to make it real simple for players, I've been playing around with teaching an 8 as an and one. An 8 is an and one. Whereas, yeah, it's near the rim. You have a small advantage, right? But your intent with that small advantage is to generate an and one. I think this does two really valuable things. One, we're not just trying to draw a foul, we're actually trying to make the shot. And as we know, many times you get fouled, you don't get the call. So if we're seeking and ones as opposed to seeking fouls, we tend to make more of those shots. I think that's good, right? But I think it does a second thing as well, is it actually teaches players that they're when they have a small advantage, they should change their mindset from seeking an open shot to seeking contact. And I think that's how you actually exploit small advantages. And so I think that's kind of what, and we also teach like when you're going against contact, we want you to play off 2 feet, right? And so that's you're going to generate those and ones by playing off 2 feet. Anyway, what are your guys' initial thoughts on that? It's kind of a shift from a small advantage layup to what should you do in those small advantage scenarios? Seek and ones.
Yeah, first I'll say what I've traditionally called an 8, or maybe
Mhm,
what you have called an 8 too, is more of like balance, power, and
mhm,
inside the paint or inside the
mhm.
smile, foot in the
Yeah.
smile, something like that. Hands going to the backboard instead of going away from the backboard. So yeah, I
Mhm,
mean, I like that it's adding some clarity to what an 8 is, and if you're seeking an and one, you're gonna seek contact, you're gonna play with balance and power, so all those things are kind of implied there. What I like most about this though is it's exactly what we're doing in this podcast series with Mike is we're evaluating our beliefs and we're trying
mhm,
to make it better and we're trying to make it clear and we're trying to teach it in a better way. So Tyler and I were in Wyoming recently teaching basketball to a bunch of players and coaches, and we were doing a film session with them
mhm.
and we were looking at some eights, and you interjected with some kind of new ideas around an 8 where I was like, he's been like thinking about some stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. You had something to say
I
first.
was I was gonna paint a picture for you guys because we
Yeah.
want to play fast, we want to run wide, we want to get the ball ahead. Okay, so like let's say we got one of those really fast dudes, and he's good at attacking the rim, and like so he catches the ball, and his only read is like, is there another body in the paint? If there's not another body in the paint, green light. All right.
Mhm.
So it's one on one. He's got to beat one guy. He's got a full head of steam. So is that like what you have in mind when you say an 8? Like him just going at this guy, he's probably going to be on his hip, but it's going fast. He's coming right at you. The defender's already backing up in transition defense, and it's like, hey, if you can, it's one on one.
Yeah.
Go get it done.
Yeah. I think that is one scenario for an 8. Yes. I mean, I think another scenario for an 8 would be a back to the basket post up, where using pivots, footwork, and fakes, you're able to get them on your shoulder, and then maybe you get them in the air with some sort of an arum is what we call it, or an up fake, right? Once they're in the air, they're at your mercy. Now you have a choice. I seek an 8 in that scenario. That's I'm going through the contact, I'm getting an and one. So I think that's another scenario. I think there's lots of scenarios, but I think those are two common ones.
No, it's very interesting because in transition too, and it's an idea I've been toying around with just with like playing fast and all that kind of stuff because I was actually watching the Swiss under 20 national team for women, and they like are almost reckless in transition to
Mm,
get to the cup and like get the shot up. Doesn't matter if the big is back, doesn't matter because they're
mm,
following it up.
mm,
They're getting it high on the glass and somebody else is crashing it, and I can't tell you
yeah.
how many times they just took that thing off, like, because the other defender's kind of there just looking, and here comes the other girl. She grabs it, bucket.
Yeah. I mean, I would and that goes back to even what I said at the beginning, like, I would rather that. Let's play fast and throw things at the rim aggressively as opposed to play slow and not even putting any pressure on the rim. Like, let's at least
Mhm.
establish that as the baseline, then we can turn the dials a little bit and be a little bit more discerning.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's start there. I love it.
Yeah, you don't want to confuse running offense with trying to score. I've been
Yeah.
guilty of saying run offense a lot. And again, that's one of those things where we started the pod. It's like looking back, it's like, oh, like should have been screaming, go score, get to the rack, do something, create some gravity, put some pressure on the defense, get to the rim. All right. That's our 5 rules for offense. We had our shots, our spots, our pace, our pattern, and our people. Coaches that are listening, it would be great for you to start where we started. Just maybe prioritize these
Mhm.
things, rank them in order of how you would prioritize these things, how you want to introduce them, and then create your principles of play here. Like, what is your shots? What is your spots? What is your pace that you want to play with? Because that will clarify your offensive system. You probably don't need more actions. You probably don't need more plays. You probably need clearer rules on how you're going to teach offense. Anything y'all want to close with
Yeah,
before
well, I
we
say we haven't got
hop
enough
out?
comments on our last couple of episodes, so drop your order in the comments below. You have the 5, Mark just summarized them. What order will you teach or prioritize them this season? And just like we want to play with pace, having a plan is better than not having a plan.
Yeah, and if you're a player, get open and be ready to make a play.
That's right.
And get open
Don't
more.
waste an advantage. All right, let's go to the members only section of the podcast. We're gonna say bye to all just the listeners. We're gonna go to the members only. We're gonna talk about 3 things that we would actually not prioritize immediately, that we would do less and later. Tyler's gonna lead us through that. Everyone else, see you next time. Stay savvy.
Stay savvy.
See you guys.